Okay, so the warm-up, exactly the same as what we've done for the past 8 weeks. So you've got 5 worms, 10 toe touches, 10 air squats, and then 10 tuck-ups. So your worms, just go through, basically legs nice and straight, hands on the floor, walk out into your press-up position. Once you're in your press-up position, keeping your legs as straight as you can, just walk your feet into your hands, stand up, turn around, go back up the other way. Your toe touches is on your last worm. If you stay in your press-up position, you want to lift your hips, so you're kind of going into a downward dog. Left hand to your right foot, drop your hips back down, right to left. You'll do 10 of your toe touches, and then into 10. Oh, my legs are sore today. 10 air squats, and then flatten your backs. Big stretch out the arms and legs, and then try and get right up onto your sit bone, so right up onto your butt. Big stretch out, and then tuck back in. So you've got 10 tuck up. So 5 worms, 10 toe touches, 10 air squats, so bodyweight squats, 10 tuck ups. Do that twice, and then I'll explain what you're doing for this last one. Okay, so when you're ready, you just set yourself going into your worms. So if you just try and keep your legs as straight as you can, you probably will have to bend them a little bit. So it's 5 worms, keep walking in and out. And on your 5th one, if you just stay in your press up position once you've worked your hands out, and then go into your 10 toe touches, just make sure you drop your hips down after each one. And then once you've done your toe touches, just 10 bodyweight squats. And then once you've done your 10 squats, just park yourselves, flatten your backs. If you want to make it a little bit harder on these tuck ups, get in there. Just don't touch the floor with your feet or your hands. If you want to make it a little bit easier, you can just let your feet and your hands tap the floor. And then once you've done your 10 tuck-ups, back into the worms again, one more time through. So yeah, if you just keep your legs nice and straight, or as straight as you can on the worms. Just notice I've somehow managed to cut my leg. I don't know how I've done that. So again, on that 5th worm, if you just stay in your press up position and go into your 10 toe touches. And then once you've done those toe touches, back into your 10 squats. And then once you've done those 10 squats, last lot of tuck ups. A little tired already, that's only the warm-up. Okay, right, your workout. So this last one, you're basically going to do 20-minute AMRAP. So there's 4 exercises, and you're basically just going to keep repeating them for 20 minutes. Okay, they're pretty straightforward, apart from maybe one of them. You're doing 20 reps and everything. So I'll just go through the exercises, and then we'll crack on. So your first one, you've done loads of these over the past couple of weeks. You're going to do 20 two-handed swings. So just have a little practice. So feet roughly shoulder width apart. Try and keep the knees still. Hinge at the hips, so just push your bum backwards. You want to grab the kettlebell with 2 hands, put it back between the legs, and then just straighten the legs up as fast as you can. So you're nice and snappy, driving the hips forward, and then you can just relax your arms and shoulders off. So that'd be the first one. So you can do 20 two-handed swings. After you've done the swings, you could do some single arm rows. But on the rows, you could do 20 reps on each side. Okay? But you could do the right side, well, it doesn't really matter which side you do first, to be honest, but if you do the right side first, your left leg forward, right leg back. Start with the kettlebell underneath your shoulder. Just make sure you keep your back nice and flat with your shoulders back. And then you want to pull the kettlebell back into your hip. If you aim for your hip, try not to pull up to your chest because you'll end up kind of just twisting around. So big grip. Only thing that should move should be your arm. So everything else stays absolutely still. So you're going to go from your 20 swings, and then you're going to do 20 single arm rows on your right side or your left side, whichever side you want to start with. After you've done the rows, you're then going to do another exercise, and then you're going to do the rows on the opposite side. If that makes sense. So you've got an exercise splitting the rows up. So you're going to do 20 swings, 20 rows, pick a side, whichever you want to start with. And then you're going to do 20, I call them anti-rotational pull-throughs. I'm sure there's probably a better name for them than that. But basically, you're going to be in your press-up position. Kettlebell's going to be on, in fact, this way, then you can kind of see what I'm doing. I can not be able to see it. You're going to start in your press-up position. Just make sure the kettlebell's a little bit further back, so you're not your hand's not level with it, because you need to pull it across. So hands right underneath your shoulders, whichever side the kettlebell's on, you're going to grab the kettlebell with the opposite hand, pull it across, plant your hand back down. So if you make sure when you put your hand back on the floor, your hand is right underneath your shoulders. So if you've got a mat that you're doing this on, try and lift the kettlebell up and over your mat, place it on one side, pick it up, place it across the other side. You're trying to keep your hips as still as possible. So when you set up, if you try and make sure you got your hands right underneath the shoulders, and then get your feet running parallel with your hands, if you're still kind of wobbling about a little bit, especially when you pick the kettlebell up, just go a little bit wider with your feet, and it'll just give you a little bit more of a kind of a stable base. But 1 rep on those. So that'll be 1, and goes back down, pull it across, that'll be 2. So every time you pull the kettlebell across, that just counts as 1 of the reps. So you're going to do 20 swings, 20 rows on one side, then 20 of the pull-throughs, and then you're going to do your rows on the opposite side. So if you did the right side first, you did the left side. So it's a big wide stance, right foot forward, exactly the same. Only thing that's going to move is going to be your arm as you pull the kettlebell back into your hip. And then after you've done those 20 rows, your last exercise, you're going to do alternating reverse lunges. I don't really mind how you hold on to the kettlebell for this. If you want to hold it on one side and then alternate your legs that way, you can do it. If you want to hold it and swap over, you can do it that way. If you want to hold it up at your chest, exactly the same thing. I'm probably going to end up holding it around the back. If you hold it around the back of the head, the kettlebell should sit right in between your shoulder blades. And then when you take that step back, keep the elbows out, try and get your knee to the floor, and then step back in. Okay, so when you step back on these lunges, don't try and cross your feet over, because you'll end up falling over. So if you start hip width apart, step back and out to the side a little bit. Let the knee come down. And then step back in. Okay, so don't really mind how you hold the kettlebell. Just make sure whichever way you're holding it, when you step back, try not to lean over that front leg. So try and stay as upright as you can with the torso. It's a little bit easier to stay upright if the kettlebell's behind your head. But like I said, I don't really mind how you hold on to it for that. 1 rep is basically 1 lunge. So if you step back with your right leg and step in, that'll be 1. Then you step back with the left leg and step in, that'll be 2. Okay, so it's just 20 lunges in total. And that's it, dead straightforward. So you've got 20 minutes, 20 swings, 20 rows, whichever side you're going to go for, 20 of the pull-throughs, 20 rows on the opposite side, and then 20 lunges. Once you've done your lunges, just go back into the swings again. Okay, you basically just keep going through it, just to get through as many kind of rounds or as many reps as you can in the 20 minutes. It's got to be quite horrible, this actually, for the last one. Definitely going to feel it on my legs. Okay, so we're going to go in 10 seconds. So you're going to start with the swings. Okay, you ready? In 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So again, try and keep the knees still, nice and snappy, straighten those legs up. And then just try and stay as relaxed as you can with your arms and your shoulders. And then once you've done your swings, pick a side for your rows. So it's a big wide stance. Rest your elbow on your knee. You've got 20 rows on one side. So then just keep everything still apart from that arm. And then once you're doing your 20, you just pop that kettlebell down to the side. Make sure your hands start in front. Get your feet parallel or running parallel with your wrist. Try and keep your hips as still as possible when you drag that kettlebell underneath the body. So just make sure when you put your hand back down, just make sure you put it right underneath your shoulders. Whew. And then once you've done your 20 pull-throughs, you do your 20 rows on the opposite side to what you did on that first lap. Again, just make sure everything stays still apart from the arm. Keep your shoulders back nice and flat. And then once you've done those rows, you've got your 20 reverse lunges. So, like I said, don't really mind how you hold on to it. I'm going to hold it around the back. A little bit easier to stay more upright if you hold it at the back. So make sure you start on these lunges with your feet at least hip width apart. And then just count each lunge as a rep. So you should be driving through that front foot to come back into your standing position. So just keep that foot flat down on the floor. And then once you've done your 20, you've done one lot, so you're just going to go back into your swings again. So if it's just gone past 4 minutes of work, so you might get maybe 4.5 or 5 rounds in. So get on the swings, try and keep the knees as still as you can. Again, once you've done the swings, you've got your first lot of rows. So yeah, when you get to these rows, just keep your back nice and flat with your shoulders back. And then once you've done your 20 rows, for that first time through, you've got your pull-throughs. So you might need to take a little rest on these pull-throughs. So again, when you do get to these pull-throughs, just try and keep your hips down. And then again, on these pull-throughs, make sure when you place that hand back down, place it right underneath your shoulders. Whew. And then again, once you've done those 20 pull-throughs, do your 20 rows on the opposite side. And then once you've done those 20 rows, you're probably going to start feeling those on your forearms a little bit. And again, once you get to those lunges, don't remember how you hold it. But just try and stay nice and upright. And then just count each lunge as a rep. Again, you want to be driving through that front foot. So come back to your start position. Whew. Again, once you've done those, so another one down. And you go back into the swings. So again, on the swings, try and keep the knees as still as you can, push your hips back, then drive them through nice and fast. And again, once you've done those swings, just pick a side to do your rows. Again, nice wide stance. Start with the kettlebell underneath your shoulder, pull back into the hip. And again, once you've done those rows, you've got the pull-throughs. So if you press up position, make sure you've got your feet level with your hands. Try and keep the hips as still as you can. Again, when you place those hands down, make sure you place them right back underneath your shoulders. So we're into the last 10 minutes, so we've just gone past halfway. Again, if you've done the pull-throughs, back into those rows again. So again, if you aim for your hip with the kettlebell or with your fist, it's holding on. And once you've done that second set of rows, you're back into the lunges again. So again, the lunges, if you're holding the kettlebell behind your shoulders, just keep those elbows out. You're holding it up at the chest, just try not to let it drop down. Try not to let the kettlebell kind of pull you forward. Again, once you've done those lunges, it's another round down. Got 8 minutes left. So again, after those swings, back into the rows again. So just keep going at your own pace. Just try and get through as many as what you can get through. Then when you get to the rows, nothing moves apart from your arms. Keep your back nice and flat, shoulders pulled back. And then once you've done those rows, back into the pull-throughs. It's probably the hardest one out of all of them. So again, on the pull throughs, try and keep those hips as still as you can. Oh. Then once you've done those 20, back onto the rows again. Then once you've done that second set of rows, back onto those lunges. So you've got 5 minutes left. So again, if you just make sure on these lunges, when you get to them, just step out to the side a little bit when you step back, or at least think about stepping out to the side. So just keep that space between your feet. And once you've done your lunges, that's another round down. We've got 4 minutes left. Last 4 minutes. So if you get through those swings, back onto the rows. And then once you've done those rows, back on the last lot pull throughs if you get to it. So again, just make sure on these pull throughs, hands are right underneath your shoulders, pull across with the opposite hand to where the kettlebell is. Whew. 2 minutes left. "90 seconds left. Whew. So if you get through this set of lunges, if you're on them, just try and see if you can get some swings in. 1 minute left. So again, the lunges, just stay nice and upright. Try not to lean over that front leg. And you've got 30 seconds left. Fifteen seconds. Last 5, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Whew. Oh, I'm done in. So we'll just have a little stretch out. Just make sure your kettlebell's out of the way. So if you need to give your noggin or your hands a wipe down, have a little drink. Just realised why I'm so hot. I left the heating on. Idiot. Okay, so if you just plunk yourselves on the floor, tuck your knees into your chest, and then try not to grab your toes on any of these. Grab the bottom of your heels, keep your chest on your thighs, and then just walk your feet away as far as you can. It doesn't matter if there's a slight bend in your leg. Pull your toes back towards your head, don't grab them, but pull them back towards your head, and just keep your chest down as low as you can. If your legs are bent and it starts to kind of, you feel the stretch kind of ease off a little bit, just go a little bit straighter with the legs if you can. Now if you slowly come out of that, if you leave your, let's go left leg, leave your left leg in front. If you've got any knee pain, bring your, oh, knee just cracks as it goes on about knee pain. Just bring the sole of your foot on the inside of your leg. If you can, bring the leg around the back. So try and get to kind of roughly 90 degrees with your legs again. Bend the left leg at the knee. Shift your rib cage over your thigh. And then try and straighten that leg up. Again, if it's got a slight bend in it, like I'm really tight on my left side, doesn't really matter because you're still going to get your hamstrings. And just make sure you keep pulling those or pointing the toes towards your head. And just keep that chest down. Again, if you slowly come out of that, just bring your right leg out to the side. So if you go into straddle position, so just get your feet as far apart as what's comfortable, as long as it's not like really close together. So split the legs. Try and keep both butt cheeks on the floor, or both hips on the floor. Clasp hands together. Start over one leg, and then just bound yourself across the other leg. And then just keep going backwards and forwards from one leg to the other. And then just try and reach a little bit further on each bounce. If you feel a little bit tight more on one side than the other, you can always just kind of chill out there for a sec. Bring your legs back together. Then you're going to do the same thing on the right side. So you want to bring your left leg around the back. Again, just keep your butt cheeks on the floor. Bend your right leg at the knee. Shift your rib cage over your thighs. And try and work that leg as straight as you can. So if you aim to get your forearms down, that kind of just helps keep your chest down rather than sitting upright trying to grab your toes. So again, if you need to keep your legs slightly bent, if you can't straighten up, it's fine. Again, just keep pointing those toes back towards your head. And if you slowly come out of that, leave your right leg in front. Pop yourself into a lunge position. So you should have a box shape between your right calf and your left thigh. And then if you pick your left foot up, and if you grab your foot and just pull your heel in as close to your bum as you can. If you need to use a towel, if you're really tight on your quads, you can wrap a towel around your foot and just use a towel to pull your foot in. In that position, if you can feel it pulling on your quad, stay where you are. If you can't, let your hips and your knee just drift forward, so your knee will come over your toes, but try not to lean over that right leg. Just like your lunges, try and keep that straight line from your knee through your hip, all the way up to your shoulders. And if you slowly come out of that, don't let that leg snap down. Switch legs over. So left leg in front, create that little box shape. Okay, if you need to use a towel to grab that foot, you can use a towel. Pull the heel in. If you can't feel anything on that quad, again, just let your hips and your knee drift forward. If you can already feel it pulling on your quad, just stay where you are. Don't try and lean into it. And if you slowly come out of that, just bring your knees underneath your hips. So if you leave your bum stuck up in the air, big stretch out your arms, and then just try and sink your chest and your chin down. And then rather than looking at the floor, think about getting your chin down to the mat and then just look at where your hands are. So you're kind of looking through your top of your eyebrow. And just keep your arms nice and straight. And then if you slowly come out of that, pop your toes together, so your big toes are touching. Put your knees out to the side, sit back onto your heels, and you can relax your head down, relax your forehead down, relax your arms out. Just keep your hips down on your heels, back of your heels. After all those rows that we did, that was a hell of a lot of rows, you straighten your arms up, keep your hips where they are, so don't move your hips. And then with your arms nice and straight, just walk your hands over to one side. And then you should get a big stretch. If you keep your shoulders nice and flat, so you're not hiking one shoulder up, you're not twisting, you should get, if you walk over to the right side with your hands, you should get a big stretch all the way down, kind of from your left armpit, all the way down the lats. You might even get it into your obliques a little bit. And then if you walk your hands across the other side, so you go to the left side. Again, keep your hips still, walk your hands across as far as you can, keeping your arms straight. Make sure the shoulders are nice and flat, so you're not dropping one side down. And then if you come back into the middle, again, you can relax your forehead down, relax your arms out. And slowly come out of that, and we're done. Whew.